Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer. I am Angelus, son of Abaddon. You probably know me by my mundane name, Michael Hyson, and I am the founder and owner of the Order of the Black Thorn. But today, I'm not going to be discussing occultism. I'm not going to be discussing history and mythology. Today I'm going to discuss something kind of different because it's things that occurs in our lives on a daily, if not yearly, quest. This is stuff that is personal, things that we normally would push to our back of the head, back to the back of the head, where we put all the afflictions and the minor damage, the things that we come up against, we just don't want to deal with at that particular time. That type of stuff. We push it to the back of our heads. And eventually we just sit there and forget about it. But let's talk a little bit about what occurs when we do this. Number one, the topic or the issue at hand doesn't get resolved. It doesn't get dealt with, and it just sits there in what Christopher Penziak so colorfully described as the shadow portion of your mind. Back here. Okay? This is out of the book of The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft. Okay? Third book in a 6-book series. All right? Now, I'm not here to promote his work. No. I want to discuss something that's very close to me, to my family. Minor things that we would just simply shrug off and just place at the back of our heads like nothing happened. But it does happen. It did happen. You know, could be that you were attacked by somebody you looked up to, and you basically used what he trained you to do and you destroyed him. This teacher, this parent, this father type, and you flat out destroyed them, left them with nothing because he trained you to be ruthless. He trained you to be a monster. But you, as the individual, didn't care about reputation. You didn't care about the way it made you look. It could be that somebody was harassing you at work and eventually you had to deal with them. It could be legal issues where you're hounded day and night, harassed, stalked, threatened. It could be a lot of things. But eventually you're going to have to put a stop to it and you utilize what you know. Could be you're an attorney, it could be you are a cop, could be you are a martial artist, or it could be that you are an occultist, a martial, a career black magician, being forced to do things that you don't want to do. Could be your back's against the wall and you just basically had enough. You slam those books down, if you're being bullied at school and you just lose it and go after those bullies, eventually you're going to have to deal with it. You may not care in that moment how it would make you look in the long run. It could be that you may not give a damn about your reputation. So you push it to the back of your head. You ignore it. But what happens in the long run? Especially if some of you do nothing. You do nothing. But all that anger, all that hatred will eat through you like a cancer, and it will eventually erupt like a volcano over and over and over again until one of two things happens. One, you do something stupid and you're defeated. Or two, you grow a pair and you face your past. You face your history. We all have a history. We all have a path that we've done things that we wish we could take back. Like listening to a monster, a tyrant who's only out for power, his own gain. It could be that you allowed yourself to be bullied and into doing something you didn't want to do, like say prostitution, or say for an example, joining a gang in fear of your life or your family's lives. Things that you regret doing at that time. But eventually you have to deal with it. You have to come to terms with this action. You have to come to terms with the chain of events that transpire since day one. Some people are born into a family where you have to fight for everything you have. You have to scrounge, steal. You have to do things that ordinary children shouldn't have to do. Or perhaps you're born into a family where you just simply have to fight to survive, or you become lunch. You get preyed on by your own family. Until one day, the state steps in, removes you. Your family gets arrested, not over child abuse, neglect. No. It would be something more common, like physical violence over a cup of sugar. Could be you're hanging around a bad crowd and eventually you get arrested for criminal threatening or perhaps stalking, assault with a deadly weapon, whatever. Your family just gets arrested. There's a lot of things that play into effect here, and especially on that topic there. And you get put into, say, foster care, and you're raised in foster care with somebody that basically puts their marriage before separate, puts you before her marriage. That's if you're lucky. Because some people go into the state, they don't get that lucky. They get put into a foster home where they're molested, they're abused, assaulted, raped, things that keep you up at night. until you take action. Now, personally, I was one of the lucky ones. You know, I was taken away from my family when I was young, about 3 years old. I was raised in the foster care system. I watched my foster mother fight for me. She made sure I had a good life, the freedom to explore my desires, my passions. But I had all these anger issues. Wasn't very good with authority. But most of that was due to my early childhood, the early development. Didn't help that I had a couple bullies in high school. But I've had some good influences in my life as well. The gurus, some ministers, somebody that took me underneath their wing, taught me to face my fears, to do what's right, you know? Things like that. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I going into this? Well, like I said at the beginning, we've all done things and we all have a past. Things that we don't discuss. Not because we've got things in our past, like, say, legal issues or perhaps, you know, restraining orders or whatever, things of minor consequence, you know, but the things that we didn't get caught for, like, say, for an example, you got away with stealing something, or, you committed vandalism, or, you know, you ended up spray painting a sign or a church. Perhaps you jumped a fence and trespassed and smashed a pumpkin on Halloween night. You know, things that you really could just get away with, but yet you got away with it because nobody filed any charges or they just didn't know where to look. Now, personally, I have two misdemeanors behind me. Just two. Misdemeanor assault and one of my own stupidity, engaging a prostitute. Well, that one was a sheer accident. And I'm going to tell you why. When you're walking home and you see a single mother who has lost some money, she's looking around in a dark street in a pile of brush, a pile of leaves that you're really not going to find shit in because there's so much and it's all wet and it's been raining. So everything's blending in. You give this individual money and that individual turns around and starts threatening you. So you go to the cops and you report the individual. About 3 hours later, the cop comes back and says, "Well, we already know who you were discussing because you described her to a T. She's a known prostitute." And it's like, ah, great. Shit, just what I need, right? Yeah. So the key was they were trying to figure out what to do with me. And it turned out that because I gave her money, it's called, according to the laws of the United States, it's called engaging a prostitute. So I took my lumps on that one. It's called responsibility to the responsible. Now, as for the other one, it's kind of hard to do something when you're not even in the neighborhood. But yet, when you have a father figure, an elder, somebody who you look up to, who is gunning for you, they have your history. They know your family's history. And they've sworn up one sign down the other. They wouldn't allow you to have something. But yet, when they find out that their elder, their instructor, their teachers, felt that you were ready and overrode his authority. That's really like a kick in the balls. You know what I mean? It's really a kick in the fucking balls. This guy came at me. He gave it his best shot. But because of the way he trained me, I utilized those tactics. I sat back and let him bring the evidence to me. Yeah, I ended up with a misdemeanor assault charge after fighting it for a year and dropping 7 grand in the court system. 7 grand. And I took a misdemeanor assault charge, 1 year probation. I was never arrested, never went to jail. Just a summons to go to court because of my family's name, because of the fact that I did not go down. I chose to listen to my foster mother and get an attorney. Now, I've had some morons who have attacked me over the years. Minor little insects that think that I care what they do. But like I said, I had some good damn teachers, guides, gurus, ministers, clergies, people in the occult community who has guided me. Some of which have taken me from a very, very dark time in my life to the point where I didn't care if I lived or died. That I didn't care who you were. I was into the dark arts, the black arts, and I utilized my skills as a sorcerer, as a magician, to do what was required, what I was paid to do, much like a mercenary, because I knew that there was no witchcraft laws, because there was nothing the law could do to stop me. As a sorcerer, as a magician, they could hound you, they can do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. But here's the kicker. About 4 years ago, I came back from Texas, met up with an old friend of mine who basically set me up with my son's mother. She was cool for the first 4 months until she started cheating on me with other guys. Basically, she had horse blinders on for well, let's just say our mutual friend. And when that didn't happen, she came running back to me, and then so forth and so forth with these other guys. Now, she's gotten herself into some hot water lately that she's finally digging herself out of on her own, which I'm proud of her. And I want to make that clear. She's taking responsibility for her actions, and she's realizing no one's going to be there to help her do it. She has to do it herself. I will be there for support. I will be there for our family, but I will not help her or encourage her to continue down the road of desolation and self destruction. So, like I said, she's finally getting out of that. She's finally getting on the good road. And we're actually making plans to, well, let's just say, I'm not going to discuss the plans, okay? But as a lot of you know, over the last year, I have been studying and practicing and experimenting with and applying to my life the Mirror Gyra Cabal system. run by Ascended Grandmaster Sumnus Dreadwood, and a good friend and brother of mine who I look up to as a teacher, a guide, a guru, named Marcus. Now, here's the funny thing. Over the last couple of years, since I met this girl, she's a Baptist, I'm on the left-hand path. It started out with religious discrimination, you know, which is nothing new from the JCI. They really want to hurt you. They want to shame you. They think they are superior to you, which is nothing new. Okay? So I've put up with a lot, and then I found out I was going to be a dad. First time father. Yeah, that blew my mind. I always figured I would be dead by 40. I always figured I was never meant to have a family. I was never meant to have, what other normal individuals had. And like I said, I went into a lot of dark areas into my life. And and then here I have this woman who's clinging to me, looking up to me. We're about to have a son. I'm ecstatic. She's scared, she's younger than me. Yeah, I mean, she's scared. She's gonna be a first time mom. It's understandable, I mean, it's one of those things where you can't pass the kid off to somebody else, it's like you would if you were babysitting. It's something different. This is your own flesh and blood. And I took care of her right up until our son was born. And I remember sitting there after my son was born, through the whole thing, holding her hand, helping her breathe, doing what the doctors told me to do for her. But once my son was born, I was sitting there in that corner, holding my son, just looking at him. And he was looking at me. And the only thing I could think is, if I can be the father mine never was, if I can be the father that mine never was. And I gave him my oath, an oath of loyalty and trust, that I would never let anyone harm him or his mother. And then the shit hit the fan. You know, while I was at work one night, my son's mom accidentally bumped his head about 2, 3 months in. And her mother came over, the one that hated me, wanted me out of my son's life, wanted me out of her life. And she took a photo of her son's head. Next thing she knows, she got a surprise visit from CPS, Child Protective Services. So we started going to these meetings at their headquarters, and it went directly to her mom being there during that first meeting, the head of pediatrics, the social worker, and me, my son's mom, and my son. Her mother made it perfectly clear that it was all about her daughter. It was that serpent's tongue duality, that hypocrisy. Oh, I love you. I want you to be safe. the best for you, yada, 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 but not speaking the truth. Not speaking truth. So I piped up and I said, "Is that why you wanted her to give up her good career at a nursing home? To give up her friends, her family, to give up her apartment and move to an area she's never been, to join, in my words, a virgin nun camp for single mothers?" I said, "Does she look single to you? Does she look like she's been abandoned by our son's father? No, because I'm right here." Her mother put her hands in her hands, looked down, and just sat down and said nothing for the remainder of that meeting. But not 2 minutes after my son, myself, and her mother left that office, we get a phone call from the worker. Her mother had taken that photo a month prior, which makes it premeditated in the court of law. Premeditated, and handed it to the social worker in the pediatrics. And it went from hating my religion to trying to fuck up her daughter's life, now into a child abuse case. After a few months of that, where he got put through hell to the point of being terrorized by medical professionals and these so called child protective services, who, I might add, have taken an oath as a government agent, okay, a government agency who took an oath to protect children, are traumatizing children more than somebody who is abusing them, sticking needles in their arms, their bodies, running them through these heavy machineries like a CAT scan machine, an x ray machine, doing metallurgical scans of their entire bodies. Trauma, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. So now, here we are. My son is 2 years old, and he's been traumatized. He can't even go into a medical facility for a checkup. He can't even go to a dentist without freaking out because of what these people did to him. But like I said, a total of 6 months of his life. 6 months. He was traumatized. They were threatening to take our son from us. You have child endangerment, criminal threatening, you got fraud and perjury involved. Okay? Stalking, harassment, bullying, unauthorized usage of police officers. Okay? Where this worker literally brought in a police detective from Bangor PD. According to the Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, the officer has to announce why he is there. Not once did he say anything about it. She, as the worker, has to make sure that you understand why he is there. They did nothing of that sort. But you know what they have done since then? They've been gunning for me because of my religion, because of what I just named off in the past. Okay? Now here's the kicker. I have no cases against me. Everything's been expunged. No outstanding warrants, no nothing. We're still being hounded. They have changed. We sent a legal document down last year to Augusta. Okay. Around the time where Child Protective Services had an internal review because Bangor PD had warned them about the parents of a 10-year-old little girl who was physically being beaten, abused, and they did nothing. The family moved from Bangor to Stockton Springs, where that child's life ended at the age of 10 years old, and these fucktards did nothing. But yet they're going to come at you, me, as a good father, a loyal parent, somebody who has earned the good graces of the community. We sent down this legal document after showing the evidence to a lawyer who told us they have overstepped their bounds because this is a field that he specializes in. Nope, they didn't review anything. In fact, after 2 months of waiting and hearing nothing back, they came back and changed their story again. This time, it was more darker and more, well, let's just say vile than the last. Yeah, more vile. Can you imagine that? I didn't think it was possible because my understanding was, as a government agent, they're meant to uphold the law, protect the innocent. That's a bold-faced fucking lie. So now I can't even watch my own son because of the limitations they've set. They've got my son's mom so paranoid, she's afraid to even go out in public with our son out of fear that these fucktards will take him from us. That's called terrorizing, criminal terrorizing. It's called bullying, stalking, harassment, falsifying reports. And these fucktards get away with it. I personally sent a file to the the U. Well, let's just say a government branch that is a couple branches of the government that is meant to uphold your rights as citizens. The American Civil Liberties Union being one of them, the other being the Department of Justice. This was last year after we got that letter back. There was more vile. Here we are a year later. Not one fucking thing has been done. Not one. But yet they'll waste thousands of dollars worrying about Trump, worrying about these fucking celebrities putting money into a fucking college so their kids can get in. Wow. You got the TST, the Satanic Church, going around suing people over the rights of a woman's body in abortion rights, about putting the fucking Baphomet next to the Ten Commandments. But yet, when a fellow Satanist, when a fellow practitioner comes to them and asks for their help, block, run. Not one fucking thing has been done. Not one. So here we are, a year later. 1 year. And over the last year, I have slowly drifted back away from the public eye, watching, observing, studying The Art of War by Sun Tzu, Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche, the Book of Meditation by Marcus Aurelius. These three men are very wise, and I recommend these three books. I recommend them to you. Why? Because what I'm about to get into. As I said earlier, the last year I have been studying and practicing and getting into the Majajuria Kabbalah. And I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. I probably slaughtered the pronunciation of it. And if so, Sumner Dreadwood, I apologize. Like a man. Okay? Some of the bigger words and some of these weirder words are a little hard for me to pronounce. Okay? Now, with everything that's been going on the last 2 to 3 years, right up until the last 7 to 10 years, I should say, let's go back 10 years. When I first got into Christianity, when I became a minister, the attacks that started happening, everything that formed after that for me, opening up the Order of the Black Thorn, making it a order based off education, giving people a place, a sense of belonging, and a method of something to work towards. I've had to run this order by myself because my brother has had so many ups and downs as my second in command. Teachers have come and gone because they just can't cut it. Some things that you find out is natural in the occult community, but it gets you thinking, what the fuck is going on? What the hell is going on with this world? And then my brother, out of the blue, he knows I've been experimenting and following the Cabal for the past year. I've done a few videos on them in the past and my thoughts on them, from their rites to their rituals to their books, the history, the whole king caboodle, and my personal belief structure when it comes to them, as being honest, as being pure. And my brother sends me this one source of information, some videos by Sumner Dreadwood himself. Spiritual warfare. You see, it's not just the physical world that you have to contend with, it's also the spiritual realm. There's all kinds of tactics that can be deployed, not only from the JCI, the mundane world, such as government agencies, things that go on in your own mind, your family's lives. But there's so much that can be played here. The Celtic Golden Dawn by Greer has a system that's called it's basically a year and a day. You practice, you study, you do all this stuff for a year, and then you take a day and you reflect. You sit there and you reflect upon what you've done over the last year. And basically, since I started watching these three videos, I've been taking notes, as you can see, literally notes. I broke them down into their most basic formulation, from concealment, false support, destruction of foundations, false witness, bogus claims, physical health, targeting. That was just out of the first video. The second video, you have the Scout, Sentinels, Demons, and Sorcerers. The third video, you have Defense, the Grimoires, and the Seals that can be employed to protect you as the practitioner. So basically, you're seeing the methods of attack. You're seeing the techniques they use and have used for countless centuries and have successfully mastered them just to get you to give up, to doubt yourself, to become a slave on your knees and believing in their bullshit. This is the JCI, the Judo Christian Society. They have so many different techniques, so many different followers that they can send just about anyone they want, including government agencies. And here you got a woman who sits on the board of numerous medical facilities as a counselor. Her husband works for the United States fucking government, okay, who had his office one floor above LePage. At least until the change of democracy, I guess you can say. And he lost his job, but this new government mayor ended up giving him a new position and taking him underneath his wing. So he's still employed by the US government. So basically, who cares if they've done wrong? Who cares if they've fucked up somebody's life? Brought hell upon their family, terrorized their child, okay, broken the law of the land. Just give them a new fucking job. Woo! Okay, we're going to remove you from this parish, but we're going to put you in this parish as a reward where people don't know you. And guess what? You can go molest some other fucking kid. Okay? Welcome to the fucking Catholics. Okay? But here's the thing, we're not dealing with Catholics. We're dealing with fucking Baptists. Okay? Who sit there and beat their fucking kids with a goddamn belt. Okay? I've seen this firsthand, and I had to put a stop to it. Okay? I had to bring the freaking law into it because I saw this guy take a belt off because the kid was being disobedient to his mother, take him into a next room, and whip the kid with a fucking belt. I took the belt and whipped him with it. I whipped the father with the belt, his own belt. I said, how the fuck do you like it? Don't ever let me catch you doing this to this kid again. Okay? But here's the thing. In the JCI, you get away with murder. Literally. You get away with fucking murder. You use pediatrics, DHS, Child Protective Services. You use your government influence, your own personal license as a medical professional to go at your own kid, your own daughter, the man that she's with, and a child. Okay? And nobody's looking there. Oh no. Don't want to go up against the big bad Christians. Woo! Okay? But when I started watching these videos by Sumnus Dreadwood, I had to message Marcus and say, hey, get a hold of Sumnus Dreadwood and tell him I said thank you for doing those videos on spiritual warfare. I look back over the last few years, that shit's been going on in my own fucking backyard. And I didn't have a fucking clue. I mean, some of these tactics I recognized, but all of this stuff, holy fuck, I couldn't believe it. It literally made sense. And then at the end of the third video, he actually gives the sigils and the seals, like the grand seals and stuff like that, and all this other stuff. He gives the name of the grimoires. I think in one of the three videos, he actually gives the actual page number. So I actually brought these books in with me, and I'm going to show them to you now. The first one is called The Black Scriptures, Foundational Rituals of the Major Jijiran Magic by Sumner Strudwick. And it looks like this, okay? I recommend you get this book, okay? The next one is called The Left Hand, the Cabal Grimoire of Walking in Darkness by Sumner Strudwick, and it looks like this. And I'm not sure if you can see that little, the moon structure here and all that stuff, but it's got a palm in the center, a hand with the palm facing, I think that's the right hand. Yeah, that's the right hand. Okay, the right hand inside that crescent moon. Okay. I do recommend that you get this book as well. Very, very enlightening. Okay. The next one is a book that I've only dared to do a few rituals out of because well, let's just say, as a 29-year veteran in the black arts, this book scares the shit out of me. Okay. Literally, it scares the shit out of me. Basically, instead of delving in face first, I've actually taken the approach of prudence because I've done a few rituals out of it, and it literally is quite powerful. Okay. And it's called The Rites of the 13 Tongues, the intimate sojourn into the Mazajira, okay, by Sumner Strudwick, and it looks like this. Okay, this one here has all the spells, the rituals, the curses, and stuff like that. But also the biggest one that I actually did right off the bat, and it's called the arcane ethereal protection thing. I can't remember exactly the name of it offhand. Let me see if I can find it here. I want to say it's right on this side here. Balance. Here it is. The Arcane Shield. Okay, it's basically called the Adenan's Eternal Shield, and it's on page 12. Okay, and I do recommend that because this thing actually worked exactly the way they said it would. It was very quick, very powerful. You felt the power behind it. And when I tell you that even I'm using prudence in this book, make sure to listen. Okay. Especially when Marcus is talking, because he will definitely tell it to you straight. Okay. Along with Sumner Strudwick. Now, the next book is a book that I really love. Okay. I really love this next book. And it's called Charnel Whispers, Mastery of Necromancy, Death and Undeath by Sumner Strudwick. Okay. I recommend it. It's got a full history of necromancy from the world over. It reminds me a lot of Christian Days, The Witch's Book of the Dead. It reminds me a lot of Lucien Raphael's book, Necromancy: The Forbidden Art. Really goes into a lot of historical and powerful aspects of history, archaeology, mythology from the world's regions. I love that book. It's one of my favorites of the Cabal. Then you have the next book, which is called The Eye of the Oracle, The Cabal Grimoire of Psychic Magic by Sumner Strudwood. I have actually just recently started reading this for the second time through. And the meditations in here are very, very powerful. The talismans, the servitors, the overall system within this one book is spectacular. Okay. I do recommend you get it because he also gives remedies, okay, herbal remedies, and they do work. I mean, I really recommend the Cabal system to you, hands down. Um, Sumner Redwood even recommended the Spheres of Devastation, Unchained Sorcery of the Realms. Now, there, after watching the third video in Spiritual Warfare by him, I found it interesting that now I have two reasons to read this book. Okay. Now, when I first got this book, I couldn't really get into it at the time because I didn't really connect to it. But then back when I was doing the Sunday School for Satan with Heathen TV, right up until that kind of, well, let's just say shit the bed, because of the fact we had a few members that went their own way, created a lot of drama. Okay, and I mean a lot of drama. I sat back and I wanted nothing to do with it. Okay, I really didn't. I didn't want nothing to do with it. And hey, Lilith. So basically, I'm no longer associated with Heathen TV, but I'm hoping that one day they will come back and let me go and do the videos again. But until then, I'm just sitting back, being patient, doing my own thing, and dealing with shit in my own life. Okay. But now I have, thanks to Some Destroyed What, I actually have two things to look up in this book. Okay. So now I've actually got to get inside this book and read it. Okay. So I'm going to probably get into that after the eyes of the Oracle of the Eyes, or the Eyes of the Oracle. Okay. Now this book by Sumner Redwood is called Profane Seals, and it is the thickest book that they have. Okay, at least so far. And this is actually volume 1. Okay. Now, this is called a Compendium of Vile Sigil Magic. Okay. Very, very good book. And it looks like this. There's a lot of sigils in here. I've actually seen a few of these through meditation. That is between me and the spirits of Caractes. So I'm not going to get into that aspect. Marcus knows what I've seen because he's actually recommended me to a certain page within this. And one of the things that I've noticed about this book here is that it is very, very potent magic. The sigils can be things of banishings to everything from alignments to everything from cursing and hexing. Okay, so there's a lot that goes on in that one book. But what I would recommend doing is before you get into any of the rituals in the Cabal system by Sumner Strudwood of what they have out, really take the time to delve into their history. Get into what their gods are like. Look, study the towers and figure out which one connects with you, if not which ones, because you can actually get involved in more than one of them. But I would recommend one at a time. Now, keep in mind, I do not speak for the Cabal. I do not speak for Marcus or Sumner Strudwood. I am simply stating a fact through my own personal experiences with their foundation and their magics. Okay, and to me, out of everything that I've studied and practiced, this is the most pure. Okay, it is the most heavily dense effect. How should I say this? The most heavily dense, truest magic that I've ever come across. Okay, it's that potent, it's that powerful, and it deserves a lot of discipline, a lot of respect, and a lot of prudence. Okay. Do not rush in. Okay. Now, since I started reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, I've also gone back in and I've delved into some other works that I have. Dante's Inferno. I've gone into The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I've gone into the teacher's reference of the JCI. I've gone into a lot of different sources from philosophical to historical arts, you philosophical even. Okay. I've gone into a lot of things trying to figure out how to go about dealing with CPS on a permanent basis. Basically, I don't wanna hurt them, and I don't wanna, get them, to lose their jobs, but if they're not gonna do their jobs, they need to step down and let somebody who will do it step up. But the fact that they're hiding behind their government agency, their little badge, okay, much like a lot of law enforcement do these days, they hide behind a badge that they're sworn to uphold. They can lie to you, but you can't lie to them, okay? Does that seem fair to you? No. They can change their story left and right as many times as they want and get away with it. But if you hold anything back from them, you are the bad guy and you will be prosecuted, okay? Even condemned. So after going through some of Dreadwood's videos, going into these other works, I have a huge understanding of what I'm up against, what I'm willing to do, but most importantly, I know how to deal with them now. And I owe this to the one man who opened my eyes. Thank you, Sumnus Redwood, for releasing these works, for putting those videos out there. More so, I want to thank Marcus, okay? A man that I call a brother and a friend, okay? And the reason I thank him is because of the fact that every time I've had a question, every time I've needed guidance, this man has been there. He didn't tell me what to believe or where to go. He just simply stated, I think and believe that this is what you're looking for. Have you considered this?" And I'd go out and do the homework myself. Very, very well done. But then I also have to thank Vovin, my sister, John Saunders, my brother. I have to thank Brian Snelling, my other brother, my satanic brother. My satanic brothers, Brian and John, my satanic sister, Vovin. These three have been an inspiration in my life. They have been family, blood. Blood is thicker than water, but water makes you family as well. Blood doesn't always make you family. And this is something I've come to understand in recent years. My biological family wasn't perfect. In fact, the lessons they taught me over the years has aided me quite well, made me stronger, a formidable foe for the JCI, one that they wish they never met because I've defeated them time and time again. But dealing with the government is a whole nother ballgame. And it's made me realize that I didn't understand the game. I was playing checkers while they were playing chess. But now I understand the nature of the beast. And that bell has now been rung. But what's that old saying that Marcus Aurelius said? Do not be like your enemy. Or should I go into Nietzsche? Good and evil. Be the worst enemy they ever knew. Or perhaps Sun Tzu. Leave your enemy unable to fight. There are so many different tactics that can be deployed. Perhaps it's a matter of sitting back and waiting and doing nothing. Let their own foolishness be made apparent. Let the evidence continue to rack up. Because as it stands right now, nobody's willing to help. Nobody's willing to do a fucking thing to protect my family. So it befalls me as the man to protect my family. When the law fails you, you turn to sorcery, black magic, for it is the one thing that I know best, and it's the one thing that never fails. I've been thinking of the ancient gods, specifically Osiris in Egyptian pantheon. I've been thinking of Aikido, the meditations, the grimoires of Sumnus Dreadwood, the false prophets, the false claims that they speak on. All these wannabes and all these hypocrites that make false accusations against them, and how they've defeated them with knowledge, power, wisdom, and sorcery. And then I thought of that Charles Daniels Band song, The Devil with a Violin, playing for your gold against your soul. One hell of a good song. God, I miss that fucking CD. But anyways, my point is this. To know thy enemy is to know thyself, and to know thyself is to know thy enemy. Know how far you're willing to go, so that you will know how far they're willing to go. You don't get a breather. They do. So be smart. Be educational. And most importantly, keep those horns held high. For the art of war has just begun. This is the nature of the beast, ladies and gentlemen. And just so you know, everything I spoke on here is true. Everything I spoke here, I backed it up with the penal codes, the sources. And I have done numerous posts in groups utilizing the legal codes from the United States Constitution to the federal government down to your state and borough laws, to the laws that protect companies. You want to know what a Satanist is capable of doing? Keep watching. You think Red River County in Texas fears me? Because I sat back and left them holding their dicks in their hands? They lost their minister, their chief bishop from their only Catholic church, where they sent him to another church to terrorize people. The entire county got fined by the American Civil Liberties Union and the Department of Justice. All their dirty laundry aired over the air, Facebook, YouTube, even the news outlets in Dallas. That's chump change. Don't ever make it personal, because now it is personal. Personal attack upon me, my son and my son's mother. Do I look afraid to you? No. Consider your challenge accepted. I'll play your game. You've awoken a beast, one that you're ill-equipped to handle. For I will no longer go by your laws, your rules. I will be your Antichrist. Agios Satanas.